Hello, my name is Marisol Irwig, and I am really excited to tell you more about my qualitative research plan about understanding the tools to improve learning Spanish as a world language. So first of all, I want to tell you why I am so passionate about languages. I was born in Mexico City, and I was taught by my teachers and family to love the language, and to understand the language was going to support my understanding in the community and cultural aspects that surround our country. So that helped me to understand and be passionate more about some of the history of Mexico, which is the Aztec Codex, which is really interesting. And I also was interested in developing my love for languages because my sisters love English, and so I studied English really young and in Mexico City. So it was definitely quite an experience. I also studied music as part of my bachelor's degree, and that allowed me to understand more about how to code and how music interacts as a language, and tells you more about the community and culture of different people, as well as I had the ability to learn in French and Italian as part of the program. So it was really interesting. So I want to give that to my students. I want to make sure that I pass that culture and community that I have had for a while, but I want to find better ways to do it, right? And so the ACTFL, which is the American Council of the Teaching of Foreign Languages in the United States and in other parts of the world, talks about developing skills like the interpersonal speaking, interpretive listening, in the reading and presentational writing. So how am I going to do that? Well, Krashen has some principles that are really interesting in how students can learn in a more effective way, and that would be the acquisition, learning, and distinction principle, the comprehensible input, the natural order, monitor input, and the affective filter principle. So I want to explore more through my research the comprehensible input, and I want to do it through differentiated literacy. And so that's going to be part of my research questions. My first research question is, how do comprehensible input programs improve students' speaking and writing performance when learning a foreign language in the middle school? So I want to make sure that I give students those tools to learn more effectively, that's going to be supported by my sub-question number 1 is, how do middle school students respond to world language education that is not attached to traditional grammar structure? So many times my students tell me, Profe, this grammar is very difficult. And so I emphasize the fact that we don't go to people and talk and say, hey, I'm about to tell you my present perfect question. Be ready to answer with your adjectives. So we don't do that, right? So I want to make sure that students have that grammatical foundation without the emphasis on the grammatical aspect of it. Number 2, my sub-question number 2 is, what is the effect of experiential and comprehensible input in professional development in world language education? So if we're talking about to support students, I also want to make sure that I find ways to support my team. I am the department chair for the world language in a middle school, and so I want to make sure that I can support my team with that for in French, Mandarin, and Spanish language, but my actual research is going to be for the Spanish. And my sub-question number 3 is, what are the academic advantages of including a culturally responsive curriculum when teaching foreign languages to students of diverse nationalities? So this is very important for me because not every culture is represented in our world language books, and so I want to make sure that diversity is also presented. And so what happens if we add it, and what happens if we represent our culture reality in the United States? So I want to focus on that. Those are my research questions. And so my purpose statement is the purpose of this ethnography study is to understand the influence of adjectives through comprehensible input in middle schoolers' spoken output when learning a second or third language at this stage in the research. Comprehensible input is defined as the acquisition of a language through understandable messages in the target language without the inclusion of traditional grammatical emphasis. So I want to make sure that my purpose statement is clear, and my number one goal is going to be learning those adjectives, giving empowering my students with those adjectives. So sometimes when I say "Cómo estás?" "How are you?" For some reason, the only thing that comes through their mouth is "bien," and I want to empower them. So it's not their fault. As educator, I take responsibility on what I do, and so I want to find ways that they can have fun and at the same time learn that foundation and have that vocabulary ready to express themselves. So I feel that adjectives have a big role in our world language education. So sampling procedures. My research is going to be aligned with the opinion of Creswell and Puth, 2018, about the relationship between data size and the approach to coding and analysis. In qualitative research, every part is important. So I want to have maximum variation, homogeneous, snowball or chain. I also want to include typical case, intensity, stratified, purposeful, criterion in a combination or mix. And I want to add maximum variation because I want to add documents of diverse variation of individuals or sites based on specific characteristics. And our characteristics is that we have different students from different parts of the globe in our classroom. So I want to see how that affects a different approach to language. And I also want to make sure that I have a combination in mix, because that is going to give me the variation for triangulation that I need. Another thing that I want to talk to you about it is my instrumentation. I have planned focus groups, surveys, initial and exit informal interviews, initial and exit structured interviews, reflection journals and prompts for students and for the researcher, recording classroom observations, formal and informal, in Apple testing output analysis, which is a great tool that is going to also help me to approach my main research question. And that is something that I'm really excited, and my research process is going to take 16 weeks. I'm going to start in February coming up. And data collection. The researcher agrees that this ethnography case requires mixed processes to create a thorough picture of the comprehensible input role in the classroom. So I want to make sure that I give myself time to collect data and to also use a way to keep it safe, both digitally and both under key in a case that I'm gonna have already agree for that with that purpose. And I want to incorporate in my research a narrative about besides the digital aspect of my research. So I want to make sure that I have that ready to go, as well as the code, the Atlas T code, that coding system that I am going to add. And so I am going to show you a little bit about what I'm going to do with that in the coding system. For this qualitative study, the researcher selects Atlas T as a software program that will support the data coding structure. And again, this is going to support most of the research, as well as the narratives that I'm going to add. And I'm going to follow the ethnography coding model that Creswell and Puth suggests in their recommendations to organize my project. Thank you so much. I have the references around here. I am really happy and excited to share with you what I'm going to do this coming season. Thank you. Bye bye.